Welcome, we are Canonymous, seeking to hold all our governing parties accountable. Mark Miller, if you don't know, is our immigration minister, and much like the last one,
we are living in a housing crisis.
he's doing a bang-up job.
Well, we'll consider it, and we'll continue to. We're not necessarily talking about discretionary in the top of my mind. Continue to.
I recently made a short about the Torontonian mayor and her chief budget officer making threats to the feds holding Torontonians as hostages. The threat was to take the 10.5% property tax raise they already put in and hike that up to an additional 6% to make it 16.5% if the feds didn't hand over more funding to help house the influx of refugees in the city. Now, the feds say they provided funding already, which Chow has acknowledged but says it's not enough. Mark Miller had this to say.
Well, we'll consider it, and we'll continue to consider it. If provinces don't do their jobs, we're ready. We're ready to do it, and we don't have the same set of tools jurisdictionally that provinces have. They are best suited to take those measures.
And of course, he's basically blaming the provinces and saying it's an international student problem, which to some degree it is. But it's not the students' fault. And though schools can definitely do more to stop this, provinces can do more to incentivize the schools to stop this, the powers of the Fed can do more. He even says that they don't get any money out of this compared to the provinces. But I mean, I imagine that, they just end up paying more taxes anyways. And if these students come in, they do work to some degree and also pay taxes. Which, I mean, we really shouldn't be surprised that this is basically turning into the Spider-Man meme. And at the end of the day, Canadians suffer more and more. Because he also said this.
So non-permanent residents, so people understand what that entails, that's international students, asylum seekers, temporary foreign workers, all sort of fall into that category. They represent about 60% of immigration into Canada. As you just said there, that'll be the work, you're going to do some work on these kinds of things in the year ahead. Does that mean perhaps changing the targets that you have in place to temper the pace of non-permanent residents?
Yeah, and I think the challenge with the non-permanent resident targets is there are none. We have to take a look at that and rein it in many areas, but we need to be clear about what that means exactly.
I mean, if you have no targets, what the hell are you doing, man? We need a competent leadership. The Libs knew, for 2 years, that immigration was going to potentially be an issue when it came to housing. But they did nothing about it.
There was, as you know, a Canadian press story earlier this week that said that the government was warned 2 years ago that large increases to immigration would affect housing and healthcare services, for instance, which, I mean, you would obviously expect that would be the case. But I guess I'm wondering why there wasn't a more holistic approach to welcoming permanent residents or non-permanent residents, knowing that what they need when they get here would be in place.
Yeah, and this is a very complex issue. It is obviously not surprising when we have discussions around the cabinet table on immigration volumes. They are very, very robust conversations at cabinet and at caucus, frankly, and with Canadians. Housing has and continues to be a concern, acutely so now with in a post-COVID scenario with the increase in interest rates, with supply challenges, but also just affordability challenges, people paying their mortgages at the end of the month or the end of a couple of weeks. So this issue has become a lot larger than it was even 2 years ago, knowing that this is a challenge that has been there for about 30 years, has been growing for about 30 years. And so the answer to that is multifold and complex, and I would really beware of people giving you easy answers to this.
Whether you consider yourself conservative or liberal, it doesn't really matter. All of us deserve to have an affordable life. And the current governing bodies can't, or rather, as we've seen when they have the knowledge, won't make that happen for us. Because this is how I see it. Don't commit yourself to any one party. Vote on what is good for your community, for your people, for your nation. Vote Libs when you want to see more change, cultural progression, a push forward to be more accepting. I think all of those things are good things. I think the general public would agree. But you got to pull back and vote conservative when that acceptance gets a little bit too much, a little bit too ridiculous, and it's just costing us our own country, essentially. That's the game that we should be playing as the voting public. We control the government, not the other way around. But when you stick to one political side or the other and they essentially know that they have your votes, you've already lost that battle and you've lost that game. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more.